another episode of the Gold Country Media Sports Jam. I'm Jordan.
I'm Aaron.
That long here.
All right. Well, it's a big time of year right now. We got the new year, school's back in session, and all the league games are heating up. But hey, first things first, I know we always ask how everyone's weekend is, but the storm, I don't think any of us were doing too much. I know some of us were out of power. So let's kind of shake it up a little bit. Here's the big one. Who do you have tonight, Georgia or TCU?
I'm gonna roll with Georgia.
Boo. What about you, Matt?
Hey, growing up, my family raised Bulldogs. I'm with Georgia. So,
All right. Well, I'm going to be the lone TCU person. It's not because I think TCU is going to win, because I think Georgia's going to win. But I mean, how can you not root for an underdog like TCU in this one? I mean, I feel like, hey, Georgia's going to be back there next year. When's TCU going to be back?
That was me yesterday rooting for the Giants to beat the Eagles without their starters in hopes that the Niners would get the number one overall seed. And we got close to that, not quite.
Yeah, I was, it was a weird day of football. I mean, if you told me back in August the Buccaneers would finish with a losing record, the Lions would finish with a better record than the Packers, and the Rams, Raiders, and, all these other teams miss the playoffs, I'd be like, you're insane. And Packers, one of them too. But hey, you know what? Weird things happen this year. And if you told me the Seahawks would be a playoff team, I would have thought you were crazy. But hey, you know what? It's a weird year of football.
that's the beauty of the NFL.
Yep. Everything is right when you think you have everything predicted, nothing goes as you thought. But on to the high school stuff. We had a lot of, we've had some unpredictable games that we've seen. I think this last week we didn't see as many unpredictable games, but let's kind of start with some of the games that we saw in the last week. Aaron, let's start with you, because I know you saw a game, especially Tuesday, that featured some of the best teams in the area. Talk about what you saw.
Yeah, so I went over to Antelope and I went and saw the Titans, who were at the time going into last week ranked ninth in the state, taking on Wood Creek. I said that these are the top two teams in the CVC. I still think that's probably true. However, I know I said last week that there was a gap and I thought it might be like a 15-point game. Well, if I thought that the gap, let's say it was a late going into the game, I found out that the gap between the two teams is actually a whole ocean, because the Titans are going to absolutely just roll through that league. They won 66-28. They played phenomenal defense. They are one of very few teams. I've seen a lot of girls basketball teams that have played a full court press, but most teams I see that play a full court press, regardless if it's a girls or a boys team, do not throw all five defenders on the one side of the court. Well, they did that, which, I mean, the whole idea is you basically make it hard for the team to even look up court and basically be able to have a vision to see what's going on. So, I mean, you create a lot of turnovers off that. They forced 31 turnovers in the game. Mary Carter led with 23 points, 6 boards, and 5 assists, along with 3 steals. For Wood Creek, Emma Fisselau led with 9 points and 5 rebounds. Like I said, nobody's stopping Antelope in the CVC, and probably not until the section championship. I actually learned at that game that because of past success, Antelope is going to be D1 this year. And I know I texted both of you guys saying that I'm looking very forward to seeing if Antelope and Folsom will play in the D1 championship, because I think that would be a must-see game, one of the best games we could see in the area. So Antelope's a very good team. I still think Wood Creek is as well. It's just a matter of there is a difference between obviously both of them. I think Wood Creek will still be a playoff team now. I'll get into Wednesday and then I'll pass it over to back to you, Jordan. Wednesday, I was at Whitney for boys basketball, where the Wildcats faced Fairfield. Despite the Falcons coming into that game at 3-12, they fought hard very early and rebounded well. They took advantage of Whitney being lackadaisical at times. Whitney, they really struggled as well, just finishing down low. They were 10 of 22 from the free throw line the first half alone. They missed a ton of easy layups. Even with all of that, they still led 31-26 at half. But they came out of the second half. They were much stronger. They went on a huge run the third, ended up winning 72-51. Matt Schroeder, their senior guard, had 4 3-pointers in the third quarter alone that really helped them just widen that lead. They also played really solid defensively, forced 21 turnovers. John Daly had 11 points and 8 rebounds. So, I think if Whitney can get better at the free throw line and just finish more in the paint, I think they'll still be a solid team in the SFL. Again, we're talking about a team that, was right there with Del Oro. They lost them in the Les Curry tournament. I think they're actually playing each other tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. The league is the best it's been in a while, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things kind of shape up here in a week or two.
Sorry, my mute wasn't going off. Yeah, no, I'm with you on it. I think the SFL's it's going to be tough, and I've said this before on here, and it's been a running joke when people ask who's good this basketball season. I go, ask me in mid-January, because we really don't know, come league play, who's good until we've seen these teams kind of play for a week or two. Because you don't know who some of these guys have stored away on the bench, maybe that are transfers. You don't know how they stack up against the rest of their league. And you really, it's just too hard to tell in these preseason tournaments and everything going on of who's good and who's not. And kind of thrown over to you, Matt. I know you were at some games this week. Where were you I'll say to start the week?
Well, I could probably just pretty much go through my week if you want.
All right, works for me.
Wednesday, my games were rained out, so I just have Thursday and Friday. Wednesday, I went to Vista Lago, had their second or third league game of the year in soccer against Rio Americano. Those two teams are good every year. And they battle, they're amongst those two, and Christian Brothers are usually battling for the league title. So I wanted to check them out. And Vista has got a very young team. They're defending champs, but they lost 7 players, maybe more than that. But they lost a lot of players. So they have a lot of young team this year, and including 7 freshmen. So I wanted to check them out against Rio. The weather wasn't a problem, even though it rained all last week. It pretty much drizzled for the first 5 minutes of the game, and then maybe a little harder the last 10 minutes. But the rest of the game was played without rain, so that was nice. But anyway, Vista dominated the first half, controlled the ball, got some shots on goal. Only scored 1 goal, though. That was the downfall, the bad part for the Eagles. They probably could have, if they had a little bit more time, or maybe took a little bit more time on their shots, they could have got a couple more. But only scored 1. That's how it is in soccer. There was 2 freshmen combining for it. Hannah De Silva is a freshman. She chipped the ball ahead to McKenna Gradick. I'm not sure of the pronunciation on that, but Gradick maybe, and she put it in the back of the net. But again, that's 2 freshmen that were in on the goal. So 2 of their 7 freshmen contributing already. Another sophomore, Skylar Rancis. I probably botched that too, but she is. And you're so used to writing these names. Now that we have this show, we have to learn how to pronounce them. So it's just like. But anyway, she's a sophomore, and she had a couple good chances in the first half that just missed. So Vista could have easily won the game. But Rio, to their credit, came out in the second half, played a lot tougher, played a lot stronger, and eventually got the game tying goal, a 1-1 with about, I think, 10 minutes left, and game ended in a 1-1 tie. So, Coach Kennedy Chongo for Vista always says, hey, let's make the mistakes now and not in the playoffs. So the goal they allowed was a mistake. And this week they play arch rival Christian Brothers at home in a big game. So hopefully that mistake won't happen on Thursday, and then they get a W there. Then I went home because I didn't want to be out in the cold for too long that day. I went home and I watched the Vista boys play on the NFHS network, and they lost to Rio 1-0. They tried to clear the ball, they couldn't clear it out, and Rio actually made a really nice play on it, on the only goal of the game. But other than that, it was a pretty even game, and Vista had some chances, but just couldn't put them away. Their keeper did play a nice game, however. And then Friday, I went to the SFL opener for Folsom High basketball teams as they hosted Del Oro. And, the rivals have been there for a couple of years now on the girls' side. But this year, from all I heard from everybody, was Del Oro's a step down from where they were, and Folsom's obviously they're as good as they were last year. So Folsom won that game easily, and I was really surprised. Not so much. I didn't think Folsom would win by that, but anyway, the final score was 78-19. But what I didn't realize until late in the game was Del Oro only made 3 field goals from the floor the entire night, and 2 of them were in the first quarter. That's just total. Del Oro, they still have some good players. That's what shocked me about them. I still recognize them for someone who doesn't cover them. I still recognize a couple of their players' names. I'm like, wow, I cannot believe they only scored 3 baskets. That tells you a little bit about how good Folsom is. They were just like Aaron was saying about your team. I forget Mary Carter. I forget the team, but
Antelope.
yeah, Antelope, yeah. So Folsom's pressing Del Oro, and many turnovers before midcourt, and just that oftentimes results in lazy layups. So that's it took a while for Folsom. I mean, look, Folsom won this game by what 50 some points, and it took them a while to get going. It's not like the first 4 minutes of the game was kind of slow, and they didn't have that many points. But once they started getting a couple steals, so Folsom girls won that easily, and all their starters only played 3 quarters. Cameron Mafua, 15 points. Charlotte Climate Age, 12 points. Brooklyn Perry, 11 points. Sophia Bitterman, 9 points. So nice balance for the Bulldogs. And then for Del Oro, Shaylin Perry, Sydney Sommer, and Hunter Gordon all had 4 points. And on the boys' side, I expected a close competitive game because everyone's saying how good Del Oro is this year. And not that they're not good, but on this night, Folsom played their A game. And when you bring your A game, you're probably going to win. Again, they started slow. A lot of fouls called on Folsom in the first 4 minutes of the game. In fact, one of their starters, David Young, had 3 fouls before Folsom scored their 6th point. So he had to go sit. But 4 minutes, about midway through the first quarter, Folsom turned it on and played their game, which is pressure defense and run the floor. And they were up 5-4. By the end of the first quarter, they went on a 15-2 run and led 20-6 after the first quarter. So they got themselves in good position. And from there, just the second quarter was more of the same. Outscored Del Oro 14-7 and opened up a 21-point lead at halftime. Del Oro didn't make a dent in that. I mean, if they got it down to 50, they'd go back up to 20. So they didn't make a run after that. CJ Willenberg, 15 for the Bulldogs. Micah Johnson, 12. Chase Rollins, 11. And Tanella Tupu, 10. Del Oro, as they always do, they played hard. I mean, Caden Penning scored 16. I was actually more impressed with Brandon Hill. And he's just you guys know him. I mean, I don't. He's just a grinder, and he only scored 11 points, but he just seemed like a bigger role. I mean, he was all over the place. I mean, anytime they were doing something good, he was involved. But behind that, Del Oro didn't have anybody else who scored, so they needed some other players to step up offensively.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed about Hill, I don't want to say he's like their Dennis Rodman in a sense of, like what I think it's a different skill set, but as far as like the way he grinds these games and gets in there into the trenches and does like this dirty work. I mean, he was one of the SFL's best offensive linemen. He plays basketball like a lineman almost.
Yeah.
He does that dirty work. He doesn't care about his stats. He's just like, whatever I got to do to help the team win. I mean, in the Kendall Arnett final, he was draining free throws with a Band-Aid over his eye and it was swollen. He had a gash above his eyebrow. So it's like he gets in there and does that dirty work and, it pays off for them.
Definitely a blue collar player. And again, not afraid to throw his weight around. So tough, the best thing you can say about him, he's tough to play against. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, for the start of my week on Monday, I was at Forest Hill Tuesday, I was at Forest Hill where the Wildfires were hosting Forest Lake Christian in a boys and girls basketball doubleheader. For the first game up was the girls' game. Forest Lake Christian entered that game with a 45-2 league record dating back to 2017 and a 21-game winning streak over Forest Hill dating back to January of 2019. But this one, I mean, both teams came in 3-0 in league play and looking good. And the Lady Wildfires broke that streak. They came out on top with a 46-37 win over Forest Lake Christian. It really kind of started in the Forest Lake Christian had them in the beginning, and then Summer Stevens actually had 2 straight threes up on the kind of in the corner, and that gave Forest Hill the lead, and then it's kind of neck and neck. And then the third quarter, Addie Aldrich ends up draining 3 consecutive 3-pointers in about a 30-second span in the third quarter, and all of a sudden that stretched the Forest Hill lead up to 11. And Forest Lake Christian just couldn't quite come back from it. Amy Saxelby is just a freshman, had 8 rebounds and 7 steals for the Wildfires. She is a monster down low. She actually has never played basketball until the season. She was a soccer player. But Forest Hill coach Laura Wicks, who's a pretty solid basketball name herself. She played at Bear River, I think, when they went to a couple state titles. I believe she played a year at UNR as well. She kind of said, like, she's my project, and she's like, a girl I really want to coach up. And from where I saw her, 3 weeks ago to where she is now, I mean, it's night and day. She's been very impressive, and I think she said the big thing is, as a freshman coming from a soccer player, she was a little too timid down there in the post, but now she's got a little mean streak inside of her, and she's not afraid to do what she needs to do to get those rebounds. And, it's impressive to see her improvement in the last couple days. Alexis Cobb led Forest Hill with 12 rebounds. Aldrich had 21 points for Forest Hill, and now the Lady Wildfires are 12-4 and 4-0 in league play. So they're looking good right now as they're getting ready to head into really the thick of the season. They're in sole possession at first. They've got Woodland Christian coming up this week. And I think that's going to be the winner of that one will either be Forest Hill getting a 2-game lead for first place, or it's going to have a 2-way tie between those two for first. So that's a big one. For the Lady Falcons, Sadie Whaley, who's going to Arizona Christian next season. She led all scorers with 23. She's a really solid player. She actually led them on a bit of a comeback because the final was 46-37, but it was just too little too late. So yeah, big win for Forest Hill. And then the Forest Hill boys picked up a massive win. I mean, I don't think they could have drawn up a better first quarter against Forest Lake. They were up 18-0 after one. So, I mean, you can't really complain too much as a coach if you're up 18 after the first quarter and the other team hasn't even scored yet. So, they came out with a lot of energy. They had a rough game the week before. I can't remember who it was against. I want to say it was Victory Christian. I could be wrong. But I think they kind of came in with a little bit of bad taste in their mouth, and they're like, you know what, we're not gonna lose this one. And they took control right away. Ben Mercado had 18 points. Jack Saxelby, which is Amy's older brother, and Brendan Navarro both scored 12. Forest Hill moved the ball really well. Every single player scored at least 3 points in the game. They really made that a point of emphasis. But Coach James Kikendall said that he still kind of wants them to move the ball a little more. And it's easy when you're up as big as they are to kind of get complacent a little bit and get stagnant. And he's like, we still want to see that ball movement and stuff. He's like, you don't want to be running up score, but we need to be practicing this ball movement because we may be beating Forest Lake Christian like that, but that doesn't mean you're going to be beating Woodland Christian and Victory Christian and some of these other big name Valley Christian, some of these other big names that you're going to be seeing down the stretch. But hey, Forest Hill's 4-1 in league now, 8-7 overall, and it's a big win for them. But they've got some tough places going up. I asked the coach about the 4-1 start, and he said, the big thing I want to note is yes, it's a great start, but we've also started with 5 straight home games to start league. So he's like, that's pretty rare. And he's like, yeah, 4-1 start is nice, but can you go to Victory Christian? Can you go to Sac Waldorf? Can you go to Forest Lake, where some of these, they're small schools, but a tougher place to win? And after a lot of travel with some of these small schools, it's like, can you go there and win? So it's going to be an interesting week coming up to see, hey, you've got off to a good start, but now can you hit the road and keep these results up? So they're going to be a team to keep an eye on. Aaron, I want to throw it back over to you kind of for where you were at the end of the week, and then I'll get into the end of my week before we get into some athletes of the week. So Aaron, where were you to wrap up the week last week?
Before I get into that, I will say, speaking of winning on the road, that's another thing that I would like to, somebody could tell the Golden State Warriors right now as well, who have, by the way, the best home record in basketball and the worst away record, like 3-17 or something like that. So it happens at the professional level there as well. Getting into where I was at the end of the week, I actually went over to 12 Bridges to witness a girls soccer game with probably the top 2 teams in the PVL. It was 12 Bridges and Colfax, and it proved to be a competitive game. Both squads were very solid defensively. The difference came in the 45th minute early in the second half when the Falcons countered off of a Rhinos corner. Kaya Diedrichs got the ball and had a huge solo run, probably about a 75-yard solo run, before playing a perfect pass to freshman Kaylee Four, who put it in the bottom left corner. The Falcons totaled 15 shots and 8 on target, while the Rhinos only had 2 shots all game. Colfax coach Kara Diedrichs gave credit to her backline that they are young with only 3 freshmen and a sophomore. The Rhinos were without Kelsey and Haley Bartlett, which definitely hurt, but they are still, in my opinion, just lacking a true striker in the middle. I do expect Colfax will win the league, and I do think that 12 Bridges will still win each league game until they meet the Falcons again on January 31st, which Rhinos coach Victor Quiros said that he and the team have that date circled. Yeah, Colfax is a great team. They still will find ways to win. One thing that I will say about 12 Bridges too is it wasn't just how they managed to force Colfax to shoot from outside the box to where they didn't have the most efficient shots on goal, but also they have great leadership in the back. Their goalkeeper Kelsey Curlin played a phenomenal game, 6 saves. She saved a penalty in the 67th minute. I think the Rhinos are going to be just fine. I think especially when they get Kelsey and Haley back, I think they'll be fine. It's just a matter of they need to find a way to get more players upfield and give themselves more opportunities to score. But they're going to be a playoff team. It's just a matter of how they're going to perform when they have to head up the hill and play Colfax on the road. So that's how Friday went.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a battle we're going to see in that league for a little bit, because if you look at 12 Bridges doesn't even have seniors yet, and if you look at Colfax's roster, they really only have 1 or 2 seniors as well. So I wouldn't be shocked if we're looking at 2 to 3 years of Colfax and 12 Bridges really going at it in soccer.
Yeah, I think 5 freshmen on Colfax's team, which I think is actually more freshmen than 12 Bridges has. So, yeah, and that's actually one thing I asked Coach Quiros after the game, too, is I said, a lot of things when it comes to sports or athletics here at the school come down to, it's just youth. And, do you guys need another year when you guys get to be all seniors? For you guys, you don't have that luxury because you're going to have to face these guys again. So you guys need to find ways to win. And, we had a little discussion on that. But, yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting little rivalry, if you will, that kind of continues over the next couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of over to my Friday night. I made the trek to Sacramento, to Golden One Center actually, to watch some high school basketball. Placer and Wheatland had a boys and girls doubleheader up there. I'll start with the girls game. It was not much of a game. Placer really dominated that one. I think they were up 39-2 at one point in this game. The Lady Hillman really controlled this from the tip. One thing I've noticed, I don't know if you guys know this when you cover games at Golden One Center, every single time I've covered a game there, it feels like the first 2 to 3 minutes, neither team can make a shot, no matter who's playing, no matter what level. And I'm wondering, do you think it's because, maybe the depth perception is a little off from a high school gym? Do you think it's like nerves with the bright lights? I mean, it's interesting that, I've seen strong teams, I've seen weak teams. It doesn't matter who's playing. Nobody can make a shot in the first 2 minutes, it feels like.
I think a lot of, it's obviously hard to speculate because everybody's different, but I think that a lot of it just comes down to the venue and, like you said, kind of the bright lights. I think a lot of people, who go there, obviously, when they start the game, they're like, wow, they're probably so just captured by the moment, like, oh my gosh, I'm actually playing on an NBA floor here. And, even though there might not be obviously as many fans at the games there would be for a Kings game, I think that definitely has probably a little bit of a role to do with it and takes a little bit of time to, kind of get zoned in and get back into the game.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you on that.
Well, I'll just throw in there that, that was a regular season game, but, most of the games I've seen are playoff games. And, there's nerves in playoff games too. So it's not just, I would say it's not just depth perception. It's a lot of nerves in the big games.
I'm with you. And especially, when you get into the section games and the state games, I think people are starting to realize there's a lot of eyes on them here. And, but either way, it was an interesting note that I saw. A couple other notes from this game, not great ones for Wheatland. They didn't score their first points of the game until there was 6:03 left in the second. Didn't get their first field goal of the game till 1:18 was left in the third. So, Placer's defense was, Placer's defense was great. I mean, they were really making things hard for Wheatland. Addison Horn had a good game for the Hill Gals. Let's see, Amara Jackson, played well. I mean, Placer just, they played a good team game, and it worked in their favor. It may be a down year for Placer, but a win like this heading into league play, the final was 44-13. Placer's kind of finding their stride, and, I'm not expecting them to be up there with Lincoln or Ponderosa making that push for a league title, but I would reasonably think Placer could finish third in that league. I mean, I know that they're not what they're not what we were used to seeing from Placer, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them as a playoff team. They're dealing with some injuries right now and some illness, so we're going to see where they match up, especially as league play starts. But Placer's a team that I'm not expecting them to go on a run for a section title, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them find their way in the playoffs as maybe a low seed. There's one other note from this game. I don't think I've ever, I've seen a few skirmishes in some high school games. There was a completely unprovoked fight in this game. There was a foul late in the game. I think it was just a frustration foul. It was actually 39-2 at the point because I made the note of it when it happened. There was a whistle. I was kind of standing right there, and I didn't really hear any jawing or anything like that. And all of a sudden, a Wheatland girl grabs a Placer player by her ponytail, yanks her down, and just starts wailing on her. And the refs ended up breaking it up, but both players on both teams were just sitting there like in shock, like, I can't believe that just happened. Like, it felt like nobody knew what to do because they're like, usually, I mean, you guys have, I'm sure, all seen a fight. Usually you can see something leading up to that where things are about to get ugly or get physical. I don't think I've ever seen just a completely unprovoked frustration fight like that. And I'm kind of with the players, like everyone just kind of stood there and like froze, like, I can't believe that just happened. And then, I'm still at a loss for words almost on it because I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. But actually, one of the more impressive things I've seen is after, taking like 3 or 4 punches, Jasmine Cross of Placer goes to the free throw line and completely drains both technical free throws. So, credit to her for taking a few shots and sinking a few shots right after.
That's crazy. Yeah. The only other thing I was going to say about Golden One Center is, getting to be there. I think the best part, well, first off, getting to take photos sometimes like about, behind the basket on the floor. That's just awesome. Really, really cool to be able to be right there, right where the action is. But the best part is what they do in terms of how kind they are with the food and the drinks to all the media back there. I don't know if they did it for that game, but whenever it comes to playoff time, they always have a really good some really good food in the back, and they do a really good job.
Oh yeah, the hospitality room. I guess NBA hospitality rooms are just a little bit different. So
yes, they had different.
You know what? I like it.
Hey Jordan.
Yeah.
When you're done with your Friday night, I got some things I want to throw in here.
All right, cool. Well, the other one, Friday, this one's going to be a quick one for the boys game either because it was not very close. Placer boys actually beat Wheatland 69-26. Garrett Dutro and Jack Trickett both had 13 for the Hillmen. Once again, I think this is like the 4th or 5th time this has happened this year. Every single player for Placer scored, and the backups played more than the starters. So, things are going pretty well if that's the case. Placer's now 14-2. They're heading into the league opening showdown on Tuesday night with Ponderosa as the defending 3-time champions. I'll have a little bit more on that in a second, though, when we get to where we're going to be at. Matt, over to you.
I just wanted to throw my team's Friday opening basketball scores for opening league. Oak Ridge girls beat Rockland 58-37. Oak Ridge boys beat Rockland 67-65. I have not yet gotten details on that, but I'm waiting for those because obviously that was a close game. And Vista girls beat Sac High 63-32, and Vista boys played well against Sac High, but they came up 5 points short, 64-59. And then over the weekend, Folsom High's wrestling team just got a little bit here. They're most of the team was at the Joe Rios Memorial Tournament in Chico, and the Bulldogs placed 2nd out of 55 teams. And they had brought 15 wrestlers to the tournament, and 11 of them came in with a medal. So,
oh wow! So we had some impressive performances all around in your area.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, for league stuff, Aaron, I don't know, what you know about some of these. I know Colfax boys opened up with a big win over Lyndhurst. In boys basketball, Colfax girls, I think, beat them like, 82-11. It was something rough. I didn't see, do you know how 12 Bridges or anyone over there in the PVL did?
I actually don't. I want to say that they won their first 2 league games. I admittedly haven't been paying as much attention to that ever since last week. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I can check. But I'm pretty sure they're 2-0 in league.
Let's see. I just got the standings up. Yep, 2-0 in league. They beat
Yep.
Lyndhurst and Bear River. They got Wheatland on Wednesday. So PVL and the SFL, I think, are the only two leagues that really have taken off. And then, actually, has the CAL gotten going?
Well, that was our first. Friday was our first game. So
Okay. So kind of moving on to where we're gonna be then. And speaking of leagues getting going, I'll be at Placer and Ponderosa on Tuesday night for the league opener. This is gonna be a really, really interesting one. Ponderosa's 3-time defending league champs. And if there's anyone that can dethrone them this year, it's probably Placer, who's coming in at 14-2. Ponderosa's 10-7 right now. But if you look at their schedules, they've got wins over Rockland, Franklin, Del Campo, some bigger names. They got Vista, Consumnes Oaks. And their losses are to some big names. They lost to a school from Hawaii. They lost to Lincoln at Stockton, Folsom, Marysville, which is a bit of a surprising one, and Rio Americano. So I think this is going to be a very evenly matched game. I think either team can win this one. I think Placer's team this year is the best team they've had in a long time. I'd predict an evenly matched game, but because it's in Auburn, in the way that gym is in a big game with the band in the student section and the wooden bleachers and everything that are raised, how it's just a little bit of a different environment. Placer almost had their number last year. I'm going to give the edge to Placer in this one because it's in Auburn. Got another big girls hoops matchup on Wednesday. I'll be at Colfax and Marysville, of battle of who should really be the top two teams in the PVL. That being said, I think the gap between 1 and 2 in the PVL is pretty big in this, and I'm going to give Colfax the advantage in that. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a 20-point game. I just think Colfax is just that much better than everyone in that league this year. And then Thursday, weather permitting, I'll be at Placer and Lincoln boys soccer for another FVL battle. Placer's 4-1 this season. Looks good. They went on a run to the section semifinals last year before Vista Del Lago knocked him out. And I think, Matt, you actually were at that game. But Lincoln is 8-0 this year, and I think it's going to be a good game, but I'm going to give Lincoln the edge. I just think they're a better team. I'm going to say 3-1, but I think the goal that makes it a 2-goal game is going to come late. It's going to be a close game for most of the match. Aaron, over to you. Where are you going to be at this week?
Yeah, so I chose the perfect week to cover soccer because I know it's going to be pretty rainy out there, but I'm basically going to try to be covering soccer at least for the first 3 days this week. Of course, weather permitting. Tonight, I am going to, and we're recording this on Monday, so I'm going to be at West Park and Oakmont girls soccer tonight. That's at Oakmont. It should be a good game. Ironically, what's interesting about this game is going to be the first game for both teams, I believe, in 3 weeks. So we'll be seeing, how they kind of dust themselves off from, not having true competition in a while after Christmas break. But I'm going to go with the Lady Panthers for the first game in 3 weeks. And then tomorrow, I've actually got a choice. I'm either going to be going to Roseville Wood Creek boys soccer or Roseville Wood Creek girls soccer. The boys game's at Wood Creek. The girls game is at Roseville. Right now, I haven't seen the Wood Creek boys play yet, so I'm probably going to be leaning towards going to that one. That should be a good game. I believe both teams are 3rd and 4th or 4th and 5th right now in the CVC. So we'll be seeing, who can better each other in the rivalry there. That'll be a good one. Wednesday, also have a couple options, but I'm most likely going to be going to Del Oro to watch Rockland and Del Oro play for boys soccer. Thunder lost 4-1 to Granite Bay on Friday, and I don't think that it will be the same deficit in this one. I do predict Del Oro to come away with the win. So we're going to go Del Oro in that one. Thursday, it's actually going to be my first time announcing a basketball game in about 3 weeks or so, maybe even longer than that. I am also going to be seeing Placer's basketball team this week, and I'm going to be seeing them take on Lincoln. We're going to be seeing me and Jordan are going to be seeing the top 3 teams in the FVL most likely all in the same week. This is a great rivalry. Hillman are 14-2. Zebras went 14-4 in non-league. Little bit of stats on this rivalry. The Zebras are 5-1 in the last 6 games against the Hillman and haven't lost at home since early 2019. I'm still going to take the Hillman in a close barn burner here. I definitely could see it going either way. I know last year I thought that the Hillman were going to win the game at Lincoln, and Lincoln ended up coming away with the win there. So this could go either way, but I'm looking forward to seeing that one. And then Friday, I actually don't know where I'm going to be going yet. I'm going to be going to something. I've got about 5 different options, I think. One of them is Marysville 12 Bridges boys basketball. I know those are the most likely going to be the top 2 teams in the PVL. Placer and Lincoln play in girls basketball. There's a few games in the Rockland, Roseville area. So not sure yet. You can tune into next week's show to figure out where I was out on Friday.
All right, I like it. And yeah, that Placer Lincoln rivalry and the way we talked about top 3 in the PVL, I think I'm going to make the bold prediction. We're not going to see what Pondo did last year. I don't think we're going to see anyone go undefeated in the in the FBL this year. Sorry. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if we see a league champion with 3 league losses in that league this year.
Yeah, we could easily see like a 3-way tie or something like that. I could
definitely. Matt, over to you. I know looking at what you have typed down, you're going to be pretty busy this week. Where are you going to be?
Just as busy as everybody else. But these are just after I had no clue I was going to be until I sat down and looked, and this is going to be a fun week because there's a lot of good games. Well, tonight is the Rockland girls and Folsom girls soccer, but tomorrow night Folsom Del Oro and wrestling, and these teams have won the SFL one of these 2 teams has won the SFL like the last 9 years. So since joining in the same league together, so it usually comes down to these 2 teams. That's going to be a fun match to cover. Thursday we're to have the Christian Brothers and Vista Girls play each other, which is a rematch of the D3 section title last year. And Friday, the top 2 girls teams in the Capital Athletic League, Christian Brothers and Vista, play each other. So that's going to be, it should be a good game. So it's going to be a fun week. And then back to next Monday, I'm going to check out the Vista boys again against El Camino.
All right. Busy week for everyone. And we've had, I guess, some big performances in the last week. Aaron, we'll start with you. What were some of the best performances you saw, and who's your athlete of the week?
Yeah, so my Lincoln area athlete of the week is going to be a wrestler. It's going to be Kelly Little. He is one of the 2 Fighting Zebra wrestlers who made it to Masters last year. And while he didn't win a match there, I know he's got goals to go above and beyond and perform really well at state and Masters this year. He is 14-9 on the season. He won his match against Placer in a duel on Wednesday. So he is my athlete of the week for Lincoln. A couple other performances in the Lincoln area. Benny Jomo, 24 points and a 74-46 win over Foothill on Thursday. That was the Zebras boys basketball's final non-league game. And then Katie Leith had 21 points and 11 rebounds and a 63-25 win over Center High on Thursday. And I believe that was the Lady Zebras basketball's final non-league game. They both start league play this week. South Placer athlete of the week is going to go to Austin Ito of Wood Creek. I know I've mentioned his name before, and he's finally going to get the nod. He had 29 points in a huge 71-66 win over Antelope last Tuesday, and then he had 23 points in a win over Yuba City on Thursday. He is averaging 21.2 points per game for the Timberwolves so far, and I'm expecting Wood Creek to definitely be contending for a league title. I think they, if I'm not mistaken, either Tuesday or Wednesday, they play Inderkum at home, which could very much be a battle between the top 2 teams in the CVC. So interested to see kind of what comes out of that. Also, Ryan McAdam and Cody Wagner, both of Whitney boys soccer, scored 2 goals apiece in a 6-1 win over Folsom on Friday.
All right, some big ones. Matt, over to you. Who were some of the best performances you saw this week?
Well, there's every week there's people that stand out, but my athlete of the week is someone who worked on accomplishing this achievement all year long. Ashley Benedict, the Folsom High senior, she was on the golf team in the fall, but this past Saturday she was awarded the most improved junior female golfer of 2022 out of all 6,000 plus female junior golfers in Northern California. So her handicap went down from a 19 to a 4, and that apparently was the best lowering of a handicap. So she earned that award, and out of over 6,000 golfers, that's pretty impressive, I thought. So Ashley Benedict, Folsom High senior, she's my athlete of the week.
All right, I like it. I've got some impressive performances again from Garrett Dutrow had pretty good week with a big win at Golden One Center. He's been dominant for the Hillman. Brianna Packheiser, another great wrestler there. Kaya Diedrichs had 3 goals and an assist for Colfax this week on the soccer field. She actually has kind of been out of basketball games in these last couple of days. I think there's been an overlap with soccer because she's playing both. But I'm going to give my athlete of the week to Addie Aldrich of Forest Hill. She had 21 points for the Wildfires, was really the catalyst in that big win of beating your rival for the first time in 10 years. So that's a big one. Then what's so cool about her is she was actually the first one out of the locker room after the game, and she had to get changed real quick because she's also the leader of Forest Hill's student section. So she had to get there before tip-off of the boys' game. I just thought that was super cool how, hey, you lead your school to a huge win over a rival, get yourselves into first place, but then I've got to be there to support the boys and, lead the student section as you cheered them on to victory. So I'll go Addie Aldrich for the Auburn Journal Athlete of the Week. And I think with that too, we're pretty much ready to wrap this one up. Before we get going, does anyone have anything they want to add?
I'm good.
All right. Well, like we said, this has been another episode of the Gold Country Mia Sports Jam. And remember, we're recording this on Monday. We made our national championship picks. Obviously, I think we consensusly picked TCU. So don't old takes expose us. I don't remember what Aaron and Matt picked, but I'm pretty sure it was TCU. They definitely didn't say Georgia. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the show. I've been Jordan.
I've been Aaron.
I'm Matt.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Okay.